Hopefully we've got audio. It looks like we have. I'm going to bring up my page just to see if I can see what's going on there. So bear with me just for a minute. There we are. Just let me get the chat down. So this is an unscheduled live, so I'm going to give it a few minutes to see if people pop on. So bear with me just for a few minutes, because I want to discuss some chipper numbers with you, which are really interesting. So bear with me. Langston said, sorry, you missed the stream earlier. No worries, Langston. That's fine. It doesn't make any difference. You can still watch the replay. I'm about to post one on my channel in a minute. But hopefully, eventually, everyone will move over to Aaron's channel. So that's the thing we're after. I'm only broadcasting this on 720p. It was doing a bit of a funny thing on 1080 at the moment. I think YouTube's having some real issues with uploads at the moment. So, yeah. So we've also got Chris in here as well. It's interesting because the comments take longer to come in on that than YouTube. So Chris is saying, hello, David, from rainy Los Angeles. Now, let me move that down here. So, hello, Chris. How are you? Langston's obviously saying, sorry, missed the broadcast of the stream earlier. We've got George from Scotland as well. I like popping on at a different time, guys, so that I can talk to you Europeans as well, because normally you're in bed when I do the live. So I like to pop on at different times for you guys. Let me just move that up there so I can see it a bit easier. Robert's saying from Alabama, g'day. Robert. Theodorus is saying, hello from Baltimore, Maryland. Are you reporting from CP Plus? No, I'm from home, but I'm just going to talk about the chipper numbers, the CIPA numbers, because it's really interesting. Trevor said, just here testing out Blackmagic Raw. Wow. And you pop on. Yeah, I thought I'd pop on to discuss these early because it just came on. Gerald shared them on my photography videography school, so I thought I'd discuss that and have a little Q&A. I like to pop on different times so other people can obviously join me. If I pop on the same time as everyone all the time, well then I don't get the chance to see or answer questions live for people, so I thought I'd pop on live. Just noticed too, it looks warmer I think than the other software that I use. Dwayne saying hello from San Francisco. Barry is also watching again, so good to see you watching again, Barry. Like I said, I just want to give this a few minutes, guys, and then we'll have a chat about these numbers and just open up any Q&A. If you've got any Q&A you want to ask, just pop in and leave that now if you like, because I will answer it while we're waiting on people to see that we're live. Give me a thumbs up too, that may help because other people will just pop on. Sony Pony, I love that name. Sony Pony, hi David, just knocked off in Brizzy, so you've just finished work. Sony Pony, that's so cute, and you've got a little picture of a pony there as well. I like this because I can show the photo of the images from you guys as well, which is quite interesting. So it's funny showing this software to actually show it. So while we're in the chat, how many of you are thinking about buying the 135mm? Curious to know. Really curious, actually. Have you pre-ordered it? Because if you don't pre-order it, you're going to not get it for the next 12 months, I would say. 42 Pro says, Night Owl stream for the east coast of the US. Yes, it is. Are you planning to go to NAB? No, I'm not planning on traveling this year. Well, not that I know of, Trev. Next year, we're going to do a bit of traveling, I think. So I don't think I'll be at NAB. I'd like to do WWPI next year. So that's what I'm hoping to do. Flying Higher Low says, hello from smoggy Korea. Ooh, quite smoggy over there, is it? It's quite cool here today for basically just out of summer. I've got a beach shoot on the weekend, so I'm hoping it warms up. It's only 18 degrees Celsius, so I feel quite cold actually today. Langston says, I'm not looking for new gear, trying to work on getting actual work. Yeah, I can totally understand that, Langston. You do have to watch how much you spend. Even though I'm full-time, I also have to watch what I spend because I do have to justify everything. I can't just go out and buy money because that's money I need to be putting back into the business, and to live off, basically. So I also have to be careful. Trevor says, I have 17 lenses. I order another one and my wife will send me to Australia. Well, that's all right, Trev. We can go shooting together. I still don't know what I'm going to do about the 135 yet. I'm probably going to wait and have a look. I'll wait and see, I think. It does interest me, though. I'm not going to lie about it. It does interest me. Hopefully, Kerry's not watching this live. I have been thinking about it. But I'm just not sure about that focal length and how it will fit in with the way I shoot. I do love the 35 and the 85. So I do love having that interaction with the model that I'm dealing with or the bride. So if I'm too far back, I'm not sure how I'll feel about that. But I do shoot with a 70 to 200. So I do shoot with longer focal lengths. So, that's interesting in itself. Charles said... waiting on the A7S III before I consider anything else in terms of lenses. Yep, I can understand that. I'm still waiting too for, say, the A7000 or the A7S III. I still don't know yet which camera I will get. If the A7000, if it comes out, we just don't know now. If that comes out, I may just buy that. If that gives me everything I need in 4K 60p, I may just jump in and get that. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be hard to decide, and whether I wait for both of them before I make a decision, I'll have to wait and see. But if the A7000 is announced first and it meets all of my needs, I may just jump in and get that. I only need one more video camera at this stage for my business. So yes, I'm just waiting to see. G'day, Jason. How are you? Hero says Sigma 105 is pure greatness, Dwayne. Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, I haven't tried the Sigma 105. I know Jason has tried it, so I'm sure he liked it. Let us know what you think about the 105, Jason. Did you think it was worthwhile, or would you prefer the 135? Michael's in here as well. G'day, Michael. How you going? Triple said, still hung up on the 90mm macro 2.8 or a strobe. That's certainly a big difference, that's for sure. I think, look, it depends, Triple M, what are you doing? I mean, if you're shooting lots and lots of macro work, well, obviously you may be better off with a macro, but if you're not using a macro much and you think you could get a strobe that might help you get into portrait photography and things like that, you may be better off getting a strobe, but there's certainly different things there. Have you hit 100K yet, Jason? You must be pretty close. I just noticed, I know he was close to 100,000 yesterday. 42 Pro says 100K is in the house, so perhaps he has hit 100K. You've got that silver sign coming to you, Jason. Jason said the Sigma 105 is a beast, but we used the other day slow focusing. Yeah, that's probably the problem that I'm thinking may be the issue. The reason why I think I may get the 135 is due to the fact that I do so much dance work. I mean, I shoot a lot of dance recitals, and they're big clients for me. It would be a great lens to have, and I was even thinking about getting a 70 to 200 2.8 due to the fact of it's low light when I'm doing dance shoots. So that's the interesting thing for me. So I had to make a decision, and I may go for the 135 and use that instead of getting a 70 to 200 2.8 for dance studio work. But I'm going to see. So you did make... Oh, you're still 300 away, Jason. Oh, you must be close. I thought you were there. I thought you would have been there today. Trev said, I'm at the point where I need to upgrade my video tripod. My God, the prices. Have you seen some of the prices? Yes, Trev, because the one I've got is I think it's around about $1,200 US. Very, very expensive, my video tripod. It's a very good one, though. But it is incredibly expensive, and that's without the head. So it is very dear. well, I'm sure you'll get there very, very soon, Jason, but I'm so wrapped for you, mate, and I really am. Sam Mad HAQ says, your feelings on the Sigma 24105 ARC compared to the Sony 24105. Well, I'd get the Sony version only for the focus. That's what I would be thinking if I had a choice between those two. But I'm not sure about the costs of those, Sam Mad. If they're very, very different in price as well, you may get the Sigma if you want to save a bit of money, because the Sigma is probably cheaper. But I have used the 24105 and it was a beautiful lens. Let me just go back to Dr. Exclusive. When will the Tamron 70-28 come out and what's the price? We still don't know about price yet. I haven't heard from Tamron Australia yet, and I know I'm going to get one early. Well, that's what I believe is going to happen, so I hope they keep to that. But I think mid-year they're going to come out, but we don't know what prices they are yet. As soon as I get one, though, I'll obviously review it. I don't know whether I'll be able to show it until it's released, though, so I'll have to wait and see. Just coming down through here. Trevor said, you absolutely need to light food for good shots, or the very least use bounce cards and diffusion. Yes, you do. That's for sure. You do need to light them. I'm using continuous light now, though, for more and more things, guys. So, you know, it's becoming more and more important for me. Will my 85 1.8 be all I need for my daughter's outdoor college graduation pics with my A7R2? Well, it's certainly a good lens for that, depending on how far away you are. But at least if you have the A7R2, you can crop in. So that's one great feature of that. So, you know, you're basically getting, well, around 160 millimeters if you're going to crop in. So that's a good size that you can actually crop in. So that will be a great thing. There as well. All right, guys, we've got quite a number here now, 51. I'm going to go on to this story because I want to talk to you quickly about this CIPA, this CIPA numbers, because it's quite interesting, and I wanted to see what you guys think about it as well. So I'm going to just pop over to this story, and then let's have a look. So this is the actual article that I wanted to talk to you about. Now, it's just been released today, I believe, and it was on Photo Rumors. So it's an interesting one. Now, let me just clear this off for a second. Now, it's not good news. I mean, it's not good at all if you look at it, because what it's saying is that they're horrible figures if you're looking at the January figures, and this is Japan, but then there's also some worldwide figures that are going to come up as well. But basically, what it's saying here is that for January, now what you've got to understand here too, that these figures are actually with the new Nikon Z cameras and also the Canon cameras as well. The R has been out in this period of time. So this is really interesting. Let me just bring up these questions so that you can see them as well. Oh, I can't actually. It'll muck things up. So it's including those new cameras, and it would also, I can't remember, it won't include the A6400 yet though. But what it's saying here is that the digital SLR shipments are down by 21%. So they're down by 21% from the same period last year. So they're talking about the same period last year. And they're also saying that mirrorless is down 14.8% as well, and that's quite surprising. So it's showing how bad camera sales are at the moment. Compacts are down 31.6%. Lenses for smaller than 35mm cameras are down 26.6%, and lenses for 35mm cameras are down 4.9%. So there is not a massive drop for lenses that are out there at the moment. But the interesting thing here is that if you compare it to this time last year, there's been a massive drop in sales. And this is quite interesting when you're looking at these figures. And I wanted to have a chat with you about this because I thought, wow, this is really interesting. But if you look at this graph, this sort of tells you one thing, that the blue is actually saying that's 217, the black is 218, and the orange, which has only just started obviously for the year, is down there. So you can see how the drop has been consistent the whole way through from 2017. There was a big drop in 2018, and now there's been a big drop again in 2019, and that's with the new cameras released. And if you look down here, now we're talking about worldwide shipments, you can see that it's a similar thing. It's still got that drop that's down there between, compared to 2017 to 2018 and then the start of 2019. You can see that it's not very good at all. I mean, it's quite worrying if you look at it. Now, I'm going to have a discussion with you in a minute because I think there's a few things at play here, and I wanted to have a discussion with you guys. And obviously, if you want to leave it in the comment box down below, I'd love to have a discussion with you about this if you're not in the live chat. So let me just make this a bit wider so I can see what's going on with the chats, because I'd love to put some of the chats up about this in a minute once I go through my discussion with you. Okay, so now I'm probably going to upset a few people by saying this. I don't know. Now you may agree with me or you may not. But some of the things that's happening at the moment, and I believe the sales are down because the problem is most camera manufacturers are holding back. There hasn't really been some amazing announcement that has gone, wow. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, look at Sony. Sony have announced the a6400, yes, and I do love that. And I mean, I've got it here. I mean, and I do really quite like it. But it's not a generational leap above what the a6500 has, for instance. It's got much better focus, yes. But apart from that and the fold-up screen, there's not a great deal of difference in that camera to everything else that's there. Mark's just said it's a reflection of the world economy, and it might be, and I'll talk about that too in a minute. But I'm not sure if that's the case, Mark, but I know that may be having an effect. Just let me see. I'll bring Mark's up if I can find his comment. This was Mark's comment here where he said that this may be a reflection of the world economy. I mean, the average income earner can only not keep up with costs, etc. So, yes, and I do understand that. But let me just delete that for a second. But I'm just wondering, and this is what I'd love to know, is are people a little bit bored with what's available at the moment? And the thing is, have we reached a pinnacle in the cameras at this stage where, you know, we haven't been wowed by what's been released? I mean, we've had the Canon R, the Canon RP that's been released that really hasn't blown anything out of the water at all. It's certainly no better than what Sony had released 12 months ago. And there's no way known those cameras have beaten Sony in what they've released. The Nikon Z cameras were quite a good announcement, but again, yes, that they're not a bad release, but they're flawed in the fact that there's no dual card slots in those cameras, you know, etc., etc. Not a generational leap over anything that we've got with the Sonys already there. Canon are holding back ridiculously in what they've announced with their cameras with the crop and things like that on them. We've had the Panasonic that's been announced, and I was a little bit disappointed with the Panasonic in the fact that they didn't have the articulating screen on that camera, and they also didn't have the good focus. I mean, it's contrast detect focus, so there's no way that can beat the Sonys, particularly in autofocus. So you know that's been an issue. We've been hoping, and I've been talking about it for a long time, that I've been waiting for Sony, say, to announce the A7000 or an A7S. So they're holding back on that for some reason, whether they can't get over the overheating on that, whether they think there hasn't been any competition for that. It's just interesting things like this that I think, are camera manufacturers holding back? Now, if they are holding back, it's starting to hurt sales, and I think that's not a very good ploy at all. Or are people bored and they're saying, well, I'm just not going to upgrade at the moment because what I've got is already good enough, and there's nothing been announced that's good enough to make me think, well, yes, I'm going to jump and buy something new. And this is something I want to discuss with you. And like I said, if you're not in the live chat, I'd love to know what you think in the comment box down below. because it would be really interesting. Do you think it's just that the world economy is not doing too well? But I believe the US economy is doing fine at the moment. Now, the people from US can tell me whether that's true, but that's what I hear from Australia by the media outlets are saying that the US economy is doing quite well. So what's holding people back? Lenses still seem to be selling reasonably well, but if you look at those figures, they're down 4% at the start of the year. Now, you would think if Canon has released these new mirrorless that everyone was jumping at the beginning, why aren't those cameras selling amazingly well? And I'm surprised that that figure for January hasn't been really good if you count the fact that Canon have released 2 new bodies. The RP is only just coming in now, though, but they've released the R. Nikon have announced 2 cameras. The Fuji X-T3 has now been out for a while. Sony obviously have got cameras out for a while. The A6400 is only just starting to be sold as well. But it's disappointing. And I'm just wondering whether, is it finally the time where camera manufacturers have to say, boy, well, perhaps the market is telling us something here. We're going to have to produce something really good to make people buy again. And this is a discussion I wanted to have with you guys. So let's open it up to discussion because I'd love to know what you guys think about it. Obviously, if you're not in the live chat, leave a comment down below because I'd love to know your thinking on that. Or are people saying, I'm happy with the body I've got and I'm just going to buy lenses? Because clearly lenses are only 4.9% down as compared to 14. There's a massive difference between the bodies and what's happening in the lenses. So, are we better off to keep the bodies what we've got, be happy with that, and buy some decent lenses? Love to know your thinking. So let's open it up to chat and we'll see. So George has just said he's going to sell his Sony for the 16 to 35. He's going to sell the Sony 16 to 35 f4 for the Tamron. Yeah, and I may even do that too, George. That might be something. If that 2.8 version Tamron comes out and it's very, very good, I might do the exact same thing. I might sell my Sony as well. We were just congratulating Jason on reaching nearly 100,000 subscribers. Not sure if he's still here, but congratulations, Jason, if you are. What else have we got? Michael said, remember to tell Kerry the new lens is a tool to make money. I tell her that all the time, Michael, but she still just rolls her eyes and I'm still always in trouble. And it's quite funny. Michael says that's why he is still up and not asleep. He doesn't want to miss it. Yeah, I know, because it might happen when he's in bed. It probably will, and he probably does want to celebrate when he gets to 100,000. That's true. Let me see. Mark said the 24 Art is awesome. Yeah, and it is. It's a beautiful lens. I had the 35 Sigma 1.4. That was beautiful as well. And the 85 I had at one stage. And that was really a great lens as well. I'm just reading some questions until we get onto this new stuff. Dwayne said, I shot the Canon 135 adapted and it was spectacular. Autofocus worked great and the focus was excellent and it's only $9.99 US. Yeah, see, this is the thing too you have to work out. Is it going to be worth the price of the update, or, should you go for something like the 135 adapted? These are all things I'd love to look at. I'm sure, though, that the 135 Sony particularly will work quicker. That the motors on that seem to be very, very good. Kenneth is saying hi. G'day, Kenneth. Kenneth said, any news on the A9 firmware update? No, all we know is it's sometime this month. I'm dying for it as much as you. I can't wait. Having used the A6400, the focus on that is just outstanding. It really is an amazing camera. So I'm really looking forward to having the A9 because that's going to take things to another level. So I'm really excited about that. Jason said he's grinding, waiting. He'll get there, though. What'll happen is YouTube will take some subscribers off him, and that'd kill you. Let me come down here. Michael says the A6400 is doing very well. Espro says people buying less cameras because smartphones mostly are good enough. Well, that probably does affect some people, but I think it'd be more the point and shoots though, and that's probably why the point and shoots were down so much. Because if we're looking at that figure in there, the compacts are down 31.6%. That's massive. I mean, that is a huge sale, and that's only down this year. So if you count that down from a year before, it's a huge drop. In how much things have gone down. Let me see what else. I firmly believe digital SLRs are like the Sony Walkman and dial phones. Interesting. So you're saying they're just going to disappear? Fripple says, I'm very happy with my iPhone XR's camera, especially shooting in RAW on my Lightroom app. I'm happy with mine, but the second you go into evening, late at night and stuff, the low light stuff's terrible. But the camera in good daylight is very, very good. I agree with you. The camera is very good in daylight. It still wouldn't replace my full frame cameras though, or even the A6400. Charles said, did CIPA take into consideration the crap that has been offered in the past 6 months in terms of new cameras? And that's why I wanted to sort of mention that too, Charles, that are people just a bit bored with what's been announced? And that was the interesting thing that I wanted to discuss here about this. Are people bored? And is everyone saying the bodies are good enough now that I'm just going to upgrade lenses? Because lenses are only down 4.9%. And the lenses are expensive. James said cell phones are just so good now. Where is it here? Michael said, so does that mean I will get a 1,999 A7S3? I don't think so, Michael. I've got a feeling the A7S3 is going to be somewhere around the A7R3's price when it was released. I don't think they'll price it up anywhere near what the A9 is, because that's still going to be the pinnacle camera. I think you'll find it'll be about the A7R3 price when it's announced. Hopefully they're saying June now. Keep our fingers crossed. Langston said it may be 2,500 if they don't think sales will be there. I still think it'll be the A7S, the A7R3 price. That's what I think it will be. Charles says a 1999 A7S3 will be awesomeness. I don't think so, guys. Mark said that's the one I put up before. He believes that it must be a reflection of the world economy that camera sales are so down. So interesting to know. Let me just reduce this so it's not so large. How do you make that smaller? I don't think I can. Oop, now it's gone. Let me get rid of that. Let me go wider. Why doesn't that let... Oh, there we go. Seeing some yeah, it's the software, Espro, that's causing that. I think it's something to do with my Ultra Studio Mini. If I went 1080, it was even worse. It's actually, I think it's a bug or something in this software. So yeah, I apologize for that if you are seeing it. If I move around quick, you'll see interlacing. Charles said, hit the nail on the head about the camera manufacturers holding back. And I think that's, why are they, Canon particularly, why on earth are they doing that? The other thing too is, why did Nikon hold back in the dual card slots? I don't understand that either. When you're looking at the price for the Z cameras, when they're getting up near the price of their D850, it's ridiculous that they haven't put a dual card slot in that camera. It's nuts. Freeple says, to me, the big news is iFocus, and not just the iFocus, but animal iFocus. Yeah, and look, they are, at least Sony now have improved the firmware particularly, and we're getting that with the A7 III, the A7R3. The A9 is getting a massive update, so that is a really good thing. But, I mean, at least we're getting something, I suppose, which is better than nothing. And I'm not sure whether... This worries me a little bit now. Well, it doesn't worry me, but this is what I'm now starting to think. Is Sony going to do this now for a while? Are they going to say, keep the cameras as they are, upgrade the firmware, and then just sell lenses? Are we not going to get an A9 II next year? Are they just going to upgrade the firmware on these cameras? Now, that can be a good thing, and I've discussed this before, that are companies going to start charging for this like Panasonic do? Is that going to be an area in the future where Sony could have said, I'm going to charge for this firmware update now too? You know, it's interesting to see which way this may go, because I suppose if you look at what Sony have done with the A9 in particular, that update is just incredible. For getting that for nothing, and people hate it when I say this, but I would have paid for that update. So getting that for nothing has been a massive bonus. And our company's now going to do this, say, release a body and then keep that body over a longer period of time, release decent updates like what Fuji have done the whole time, and then charge you for firmware updates, but then keep releasing new glass, because it seems to be that they're doing better with the glass, looking at those figures, than what they are with bodies. And this is an interesting fact. Venom said, it's cell phone cameras, plain and simple, no beating around the bush. Langston says, I don't think anyone has figured out how to merge the cell phone camera and mirrorless world yet. Well, no one has really worked that out yet. I showed one. We talked about that in Aaron's show today, actually. There, and, you know, I don't think no one's done it very, very well yet. Espro said, just imagine if Google or Apple collaborate with Sony. I know, well, that would be amazing. And we did discuss that today in the Behind the Photo show. We had a big discussion about that, and it would be very interesting. Langston said, Sony took a tiny step into it recently by working closer with some cell phone companies on computation AI. But it's baby steps, no full commitment. Yeah. 0007 said, board, I don't know, but maybe information overload. Also, people resist being upgraded every year. We still want things we can keep for 5 or 10 years. But the interesting thing is, if you look at the figures previously, they were still holding a much higher rate overall, 0007. So, you know, that's one interesting thing there. 42 Pros said, Brexit. Well, maybe that's having one thing as well. Talks started in 2017 and Europe is on an economic eggshell until April this year. Might make bad economic waves. Interesting. So you think it may be Brexit that could be causing some of these issues. But the first sales I showed you were just Japan sales. So how that makes sense if you're talking about that. Brexit you wouldn't think would have a big deal to do with, say, Japan and the US. And I did show the world sale figures, and they're sort of matching what was happening in Japan. So, you know, that was an interesting statement there. Michael said, Canon holds back features, but I also think Canon are struggling with mirrorless full-frame technology. They are behind the game and not as competitive. You know, and the interesting thing is, Michael, if Canon had done a good job with that, say, for instance, they didn't put that ridiculous crop in the camera, people then may not have bagged them so much by crippling it so much. This is the problem with that release. Nikon didn't hold back so much, but Canon certainly did. And I think Canon are lucky that they've got such a good name, and they really are. If you go, like I've discussed this before, if you talk about names in the industry, there is no bigger name than Canon in the photography industry. And Canon are very lucky. Someone made a comment today to say that the Canon RPs had sold very, very well. And I'm not surprised about that, but because Canon does have a very, very good name, and people will go into a shop and purchase on brand alone, and they'll purchase what their father had or what their friends have. And there are way more Canon cameras out there than anything else. So they'll be saved by their brand name. But that can only go so far if you're talking about people upgrading and things like that. And Canon are the worst for holding back on technology, and it's ridiculous what they're doing. And sooner or later, they have to wake up to themselves and offer a decent release. Sizzle Man is saying he's still waiting for his perfect camera. So am I. So is Camera Conspiracies as well. Umar says, camera manufacturers need to avoid affecting their camera lines, cinema lines, so they gimp all their lower-end cameras. Yes, but The interesting thing about this is that, yes, it may, if they get too close, it might hinder, but they would sell so many more that their books would probably balance out the same anyway. And they may sell more lenses and things like this with more people coming in. So I think holding back's a mistake. It really is. Sony really haven't held back much at all, and it hasn't affected their high-end line. I think that doesn't gel much with me, Umar. I really think that's a silly thing for camera manufacturers to do that. Charles says the economy may play a role, but why buy a Hyundai Pony when it costs more than a Porsche? Espro says pros waiting for the A7S III, semi-pro for the A7000, Canon waiter using for the 5D Mark V. And you may be right. But why release all the lower end cameras early on? Why not release something that... See, the difference here is that Sony released the A7 III. Now, they blew everyone out of the water when they released that camera. It was an incredibly high-end spec camera, very high on features, amazing camera, and they're touting that as their low-end entry model. Now, they blew everything out of the water by doing that. The thing is, though, that Canon and Nikon had to do the same thing. So did Panasonic. If they didn't do it, they're still behind Sony. Fuji have done it in a way with the X-T3. That camera is amazing, and they really have blown all the APS-C cameras out of the market with that camera at the moment. That's by far the best APS-C camera that's available at this stage. But full frame, Sony have still got it, and the A7 III has been out 12 months. In that time, we've had Canon releasing multiple cameras, we've had Nikon releasing multiple cameras, and no one's beaten it. Soso says the economy is fine here in the US. People are buying SUVs and trucks like crazy, as if high gas prices aren't an issue at all. Well, thanks for sharing. So interesting. A few of you other may be able to chime in on that as well. Hero says, I'm good with my A7 II, 27 batteries and 2 new lenses. I love the 27 batteries. Oh, I love it. Langston says, that's who it was. Right, makes of the multiple lens cameras teaming up with Sony. You're talking about someone else, yeah. Umar says, too many smartphones, which are easier for the majority of people to use and less hassle. Well, I can understand how it's had the effect of the low-end cameras, but I wouldn't think it would have such a major effect on like the digital SLRs and stuff. Or do you think that's the case? Jason, this is an interesting one. Jason said, I believe that Sony just did too good a job with the A7 III. It really shook the industry. And I just discussed that, Jason, that exact point. And it did. Do you think that's what happened? Do you think Sony really hit the ball out of the park and no one has been able to catch up with that release? Perhaps that was the most amazing thing that Sony has ever done. They released this camera and thought we're going to blow everyone out of the water. No one is going to be able to match it, even in 12 months. And they still haven't. And that's why Sony are in no hurry to release anything. Do you think that's the case? But sales overall are still down, so I'm sure that Sony probably aren't doing as well either. Or are they? I mean, we haven't got a breakdown here talking about overall camera sales, like Sony's not broken down, Canon's not broken down, etc. Those things will still come, so that'd be interesting as well. Kenneth said, any news on the A9? No, we're still waiting, Kenneth. Hopefully this month sometime, hopefully sooner than later. Studio 42 saying it's a cold morning in Sweden. Thanks for joining in. Espro said, I bought the Sigma 56 1.4 for the A6500. That's a great lens. The Sigma 16 also is an amazing lens as well. Venom said, as someone who loves cameras, the reality is if I go outside or somewhere and take a quick shot, especially in bad weather, a phone just is more convenient and weatherproof. What did Michael have to say? Michael said that I think technology is starting to surpass our needs and consumers are spoiled, demanding things faster than before and looking for things they want, not need. And you may be right, Michael. Are we getting too greedy? I mean, look, in theory, you don't... Well, I should say there's one thing I'm really hanging out for. I really am hanging out for 4K 60p. And I need that for my wedding work, when I'm doing videos, when I want to slow down. The thing is, I do have brides now asking me to do 4K footage, and I love to slow the footage down. I love to shoot in 60p, and then I can slow it down 50%, and I love that look. And I'd even love it for my YouTube stuff that I show as well. 4K sort of future-proofs things, and we haven't got anything on the Sony line, unless you go to the FS7s or whatever, that will give us 4K 60p. So I am hanging out for that. So in one way, I agree, Michael, that we are waiting. We have got everything we need, apart from certain little things. Like I said, I'd love Sony to bring out a 4K 60p camera. But the cameras itself, the A7 III, the A9, and the A6400, apart from IBIS, I suppose, and dual card slots. But if you're looking at those cameras, they do give you everything you need. I'm just missing 4K 60p. Studio 42 said, did my first shoot with the A6400 this weekend. Video, recording live music, show inside, and it did a great job. Excellent. Dwayne said, I think it's getting tougher to make the kind of money in photography that justifies large purchases. That one reason people may be reticent to buy a new car when they can't earn enough, new gear, sorry, when they can't earn enough money. You may be right, and see, that's the thing. If things are getting tougher and people are a little bit worried about the economy, they may be thinking, well, I'm not going to purchase something, I'll just keep what I've got. An interesting scenario. Let me know if you think that's the case, or if it's just that people are bored, or it's the people holding back. Ronald said, the next generation of young and new photographers are not going to use big expensive cameras that cannot publish images to the web. And see, and that's another thing. Let me just move this over so I can look closer at that camera. That's another thing as well. Like, it is going to be a generational change, guys. And I know some of you don't like me saying that, but there is a generational change coming in of the Instagrammers sort of generation that are out there, that are the selfie, taking shots of themselves just with their mobile phones. That's why flip-up screens are probably so important to them as well. Video is going to have a massive impact in the future, and they do want this instant gratification and instant upload. And you can do that going through Wi-Fi of your camera, but it's a hassle and it's a nuisance. If it was all built in, it would be much better for the young generation. And they are changing. They're changing all the time, and it really is an instant thing. I've just put a video on talking about is print dead. And that's part of the reason for that as well. Check the video I just posted below. Michael says, I get attacked all the time on Whirlpool when I call out Canon for mediocre full-frame mirrorless bodies and the very expensive RF lenses, even the entry-level mirrorless bodies. Yeah, don't go into Whirlpool, Michael. Those places are an absolute disaster for trolls and haters and everyone else. You're just telling the truth. I mean, I agree with you. It is a very mediocre release, very mediocre. Fruitpool says, I'm big into forums, and it seems very few people even know about anything about full-frame mirrorless cameras. I'm an evangelist for spreading the word when I can. Fruitpool says, I would pay if they would update to animal IAF on my A7 too, but I know they won't go back that far. I've got a feeling that the A7R2 just may not be able to handle it. That's probably the issue, and it's probably also the issue with the A7 II as well. There's a big difference between the processor probably in those cameras and the sensor. That's the reason why I think the A6400 has it and the A9 has it. So I don't think it's probably possible with those cameras. Remember, you are dealing with older technology, and sometimes it just can't handle it. So... But, I mean, it is an interesting option. Would you pay for that firmware update if you had the A7 II or the A7R2? Love to know. Ronald said, I just call them Canon the crippler. Always expect something held back. The RP was the worst. Oh, God, you guys. I'm going to get the trolls slamming me again. Michael said, I'm okay with that. No new A9. Give us A9 owners new firmware update. I'm 100% in with that. That will keep the A9 I demand and keep resale value up. And it wouldn't surprise me, Michael, at all, because that sensor still is way advanced than anything else out there. They probably could push that sensor way more than what you think. You know, and just wait and see. That might be what Sony have on the cards. They may not be going to release an A9 II. They may just announce a new firmware later in the year. They've already said there's one going to come mid-year for the A9, which will add animal IAF. They may push another firmware update later on to give us even better focus. You know, I mean, who knows? Trev says, I think that while manufacturers were releasing new models so slowly, there was pent-up demand for new features. We may have just filled that demand. Yeah, perhaps you're right, Trev. It's probably Kerry telling me, let me just check this, guys. No, sorry, but I better just, my phone's off, actually. Let me just see. She's just saying, have you finished yet? Tea's ready. So I better go in a minute. She's telling me that dinner's ready. Michael says, I love the new Canons and the glass. And if you're talking about photography but video, Canon is gimping those cameras on purpose. If you're a still photographer, the Canons are quite good. They actually are not bad for still photography, but for video, terrible due to that crop. It's awful. You might as well go out and buy an APS-C camera. Fripple said some Best Buys have a full-frame camera department while others don't. Here in San Antonio, Texas area, it's a night and day difference between the stores, which are about 5 miles apart. Interesting. Mark said, just to think there used to be camera shops in every town, but now it's a trip into the city. That's another issue. Yeah, and that's a good point, but most people do, I suppose, buy online now, Mark, most of the time. Mark said, I pretty much love my XT3, and I don't blame him, Mark. Great camera. Dr. Exclusive said, decided to give a shot to the XT3 as a backup camera, only $1,000 with a 35 f2 included. Couldn't pass on that deal. That's a great deal. That really is. Let me scroll down because I'm going to be in trouble with Kerry. She's going to be telling me off. Someone's asking about the update. No, I don't have any updates yet for when the firmware is coming. The A7 III is meant to be April sometime. The A9 is meant to be this month. We don't have anything else about that. That's about all, and I think I'm down to the bottom. Let me just say that. I am what I am. I can't forget the best hilarious moment here. I have to go. I have an important brick wall to shoot. I love it. Oh, that's funny. All right, guys, I better go. Please, if you can, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, love you to subscribe. Check out the video I just posted with talking about is print dead. And also, I'm going to post a repost of Aaron's behind the photo show. It takes a long time to render, so that'll be coming up soon as well. Apart from that, stay tuned. I've got the live Friday show. Well, it's Thursday for you guys, coming up at the usual time. Look forward to talking to you on that. Apart from that, leave in the question box down below what you think about this discussion. I'd love to know whether you think it is cost, economies, or whether you think people are just bored with the cameras. That's all, guys. Catch you all soon. Bye for now.